Good morning. Can you hear me?
One hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Going back to institution. I'm not just going back as student of chemistry. We're going back 1 hour. to also spread our campaign, digital literacy in our educational sector, and also encouraging students to engage more in open education resources. Because you guys are really, you're not just a student, you're really an ambassador. That's really what we are bringing on board on GEG, so that we can spread this news faster. And I believe that at the end of this workshop, we will be more enlightened, we'll be more equipped, and we'll be ready to take on the challenges ahead of us. So I want to thank you all as we would bring in our presenters. I think they are almost ready. I can see comments already flying, people are already typing, people are already chatting and interacting. Hi. Thank you for coming on board. So we'll do a quick presentation. He will come on board, he'll come online to do a quick presentation. I say presentation, to present what the speakers, tell us anything about them before we start off with the workshop fully. Mr. John, are you ready?
Yes, I have.
Let's do it.
All right. Yeah. So ask that Kate, can you talk?
Okay. Hello, Kate, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
No,
You're working on volume?
on the sound. Yeah. I'm coming. The speaker. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Pending to.
Wait, could you just say something, Kate? Can you hear us?
Yeah. Good morning. It's very early where I am, so it is
Canada.
early morning.
Okay, I can hear you. Thanks so much. So I'll bring John online to do a quick presentation of our guest speaker, Kate Arthur. Then we go straight into the workshop. Good to see you, Kate.
And you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. So. Hello, Kate. Can you hear me? Hello, Kate.
Hi. I can't see you. I can just hear you.
Okay, so don't worry, the camera is going to focus on. Yeah, sorry, we had technology. We always act technology, so
No problem.
finally we have been
There.
able to try as much as possible to get it resolved here. So. All right, so you're going to see me on the screen right now. So, all right, so welcome, Kate.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. John, are you there?
Yeah, you can hear me right now. So you can
Yeah.
finally.
Yes, great.
So sorry that we kept our audience waiting and we kept you waiting. So, and we took you off your sleep too early. So, but yeah, thank you for coming around and for the short notice and be able to make it. So, really appreciate you. Actually, I have another speaker coming on, so I'm actually going to tell her to come online so at least we'll just have some beautiful interaction. She's at Banza. She's a principal in Uganda, so it's going to be an opportunity. So, but as I try to bring her on, so I want you to at least in the brief talk about the topic of discussion with the audience. Oh, but before that, let me just quickly tell the audience that Kate, she's, I'll call her a woman with lots of feathers. She has actually been involved in education, technology for so maybe I could actually do the calculation since 2000 or so.
Yeah.
Good, yeah, because I know I read that, so I need to. So she, and it was it was your dad that nudged you to actually get into educational technology. It seems I saw it somewhere. Uh,
My husband.
okay, your husband, sorry. So, and since then, Kate has actually been moving from one organization, setting it up, not she keeps setting up some big projects from Canada to across Europe and across the world with UNESCO. So the latest thing that she just came up with, she has a company coming up very soon, and then there's a book that she has about AI, and she's going to talk a bit about the book too as well with us. So she's, I'll call her a global educator. Yeah, because she's not in the forward phases too, but she interacts with so many schools across Canada, Western Europe, and talk of it, and even Africa. And that's what her passion is. Her passion is with so much of children and young people to get into technology, to be able to use the technology effectively, for them to be able to be within the school conference and even outside school and all that. So, can you help me to give a round of applause to all right, so please, round of applause so you can actually speak to the audience, please.
Yeah, for sure. How long do I have, John? How long would you like me to talk? And
So I think you're going to have 20 minutes, then they'll, from whatever they pick, they will come up with questions that you will respond to.
okay, that sounds good. And who's in the room? Who are you all teachers?
Okay, they are teacher candidates. All of them,
Okay.
they are within, and then they have some of the educators around too as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So, you can go on, Mom.
And what country are you in? I don't know where you are today.
Yeah, I'm in Nigeria. Lagos, Nigeria.
Are you in Lagos?
Yes, I'm in Lagos.
Okay, great. But can you hear me okay?
Yeah, your sound is good. It's beautiful.
Okay, super. So I thank you so much for having me. I'm still a little bit sleepy, so I apologize for my brain starting to wake up. I am based in Montreal in Canada. We have about this much snow on the ground, so I can imagine the temperatures being quite different to where you are. As John mentioned, I've been working in the digital education space since the early 2000s. I really got involved in youth education when I had my 3 young girls. I have 3 daughters. They were babies at the time, but now they're all 3 adults, so no longer babies in the house. And I felt that there was a real need to address the gaps in education, especially with technology becoming so prevalent in their lives. So I wanted to make sure that they were learning to code, that they were learning computational thinking. And I felt if I feel like that as a parent, I imagine that other parents feel the same way. And so I started a charity in Canada, and as John mentioned, I then went started to work globally. A bit about my background: I was born in England, and then quickly moved to Lagos, Nigeria, where I lived for 4.5 years. And then I moved to Argentina, and then Saudi Arabia, and then we moved to Canada. So I've been here as my home base for many years now. The reasons why I got into the digital education space was primarily for my kids, but then for kids across the country to begin with. In Canada, we have 2 official languages. We have English and French, and we're a very big country with a very separated education system. So we have every province, we have 10 provinces and 3 territories, and each province has their own education systems. And so it took me quite a bit of time to try and figure out how the education systems work, who had the control of curriculum, who trained the teachers. Then I, learning the different grades, so the different grade structures from province to province changes. So it took me a bit of time to figure all that out. And at the time when I started, there was no content for learning to code. There was no organization that was building information curriculum. So we started to build curriculum from scratch using the platform Scratch. I don't know if you know that platform, MIT's Scratch platform. And then I did as much learning as I could. I read everything by Seymour Papert, who you might know, MIT professor, everything by Ken Robinson about creative schools and the purpose of school and, why we go to school. And, I wanted to make sure that I had a really solid understanding to why do we go to school for 20, 25 years? If we're fortunate to be able to do that, why do we do that? And I wanted to have my definition to understand that, so that through my work, I would be able to always anchor any of my decisions to that. So for me, education means making sure that each citizen has the skills and tools to be able to create and communicate in the world around them, that they're socially and economically active and engaged citizens. So they need to learn how to work, how to get a job, how to contribute to society, to your community. And a lot of that has to do with learning to read and write, learning numbers. You can't learn finance unless you understand, the foundations of numbers. Which anchors to literacy, and it's a lot of the work that I've been doing as the foundation of literacy with my book. And then, as this is all in the physical world, we need words and numbers, or a form of data. But as the digital world has been built, that digital world has been built on lines of code, which is also letters and numbers and operators. So again, a mix of words and numbers. So if you've ever had the opportunity to learn to code, you can see how much the skills you need, the basic traditional literacy skills you need to be able to code, because you can read code, you can read lines of code like you can read a story, which is sort of how I got into it, because I studied English literature, so I have a passion for reading and storytelling, and so as this digital world is being built, we needed to learn those skills of the coding skills to be able to for our youth to be able to communicate and create in that space. Maybe a little bit about the digital space I can share is in the 50s, computer science was starting to emerge. We had pioneers in computing like Grace Hopper, who was advancing computing so that, computers were no longer these massive, machines that took up floors and floors and had to be written in binary code or COBOL, like an old hard code. Grace Hopper developed the compiler, which actually allowed people to translate, to write simple code, and the compiler would translate it so the machine understood it. At the same time, in the 1950s, artificial intelligence was coined. And so there was an emerging around the same time. And artificial intelligence, what researchers are trying to do was to figure out how to get a computer to work like a brain, the human brain. And so fast forward to the 80s and 90s, 1980, 1990, we had people like Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who discovered or created the World Wide Web, which was built on the internet, that came about just a few years before. And this digital space is very young. It's not old. Not like our physical world that we live in that has had millennia. Ever since humans have existed, we've had time to build structures and learn how to communicate in this space. And then in the early 2000s, we had the emergence of social media, and we had smartphones. iPhone came out, and this allowed technology or the internet to access a lot of data. So we were, texting and adding photos and sharing comments and adding videos, and Facebook was in, Instagram was forming, LinkedIn was a bit around, and this was gathering a lot of data, and computer scientists were using all of that data to train their models. So as we're looking at artificial intelligence, which is very, prevalent around the world now, that period in the 2000s was really important, because all of the data we were feeding, and we were giving all these machines all of this data for free, without us really knowing what was happening, was training models that, like ChatGPT and Gemini. And I'm not sure if you're using or you're allowed to use AI or ChatGPT or those models, but that was really the time where that was an important time. So I started my charity in 2012, as John mentioned, and was able to do quite a lot of impact here in Canada, and then partnered with UNESCO on an international level to bring artificial intelligence awareness aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals to youth across not just across Canada, but to the 192 member states. So we were bringing AI literacy and coding and the Sustainable Development Goals to youth in their countries. And I stepped down from my role at the charity in a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, to write a book. And that's the book that John mentioned. It's called Am I Literate? Redefining Literacy in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. And what the book is about is it's about artificial intelligence, but it's about the journey and where it comes from, and how important it is for us, in particular for educators, to make sure we don't widen the gap between learning to read and write and learning numbers. So when I grew up, it was called the 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. With the advancements of AI literacy. So it's really important that we're learning how AI and how it's manipulating our data and how it learns by using our data. But it's equally important that we make sure that youth are learning the foundations of literacies. So to wrap up a little bit, so I can start to take some questions, is the meaning of literacy. So the research I have done around defining literacy. So literacy is when we can access data. So if you have a book in front of you or a piece of paper in front of you, and you can access that information, those words on that page, you can access the data, you have the skills to translate those words into information and knowledge, because without the skills, words are meaningless, right? So you need to have the skills to be able to transfer that data into knowledge and then respond meaningfully. So I'm talking, hopefully we will be talking, but I'm talking and you're listening and you're understanding what I'm saying, and then we'll be able to have a conversation. Literacy is then being able to record that or put it down, so that it's in a form of data that can be shared and built upon. To be able to be literate, to get the skills to be literate, you need to have access to the tools. So you need access to, if you're learning to read and write, you need to have access to the pens and papers. If you're learning how to code, you need access to computers or a machine. And you need access to the channels. So you need to have access to the ability to transfer that information. So in today's world, that would be the internet. So along with the internet, with the tools and with the skills, that's what we need now to be AI literate. So that, John, is sort of a summary of my work. I hope that's helpful.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, good. So that's a beautiful summary of what AI, where AI started from. We were talking about Grace Hopper, and you mentioned in the 1950s that artificial intelligence also came, and that science computing was also very much in development. So now we the trend of things. Let me first of all ask this question, because now we have in the audience people that are trying to, they are getting trained to become teachers. So they are necessarily not getting trained to become coders. So where did they start from to start to unravel AI as teachers and not just as coders?
Yeah.
I don't understand my question.
So how do teachers start to understand artificial intelligence?
Yes, make use of start to understand and make use of artificial intelligence, since they are not primarily coders. You're talking about Scratch the other time. A lot, virtually all of them are actually no interface with it or something like that, but they want to start to make use of AI. So what would you suggest? Where should they start off from?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and it's complicated for teachers because of the role that they play in being educators for the youth, right? So teachers are not just learning to use AI for themselves; they're learning to teach youth about AI and how to use AI responsibly. So for teachers or for education systems, I look at it at two parts. One part is teachers and youth need to understand how AI works. That's one side. Then the other side is teachers and youth need to know how to use AI responsibly. So one part, the first part on understanding how AI works is really important. It's sort of like saying you don't tell your kids, or you don't as a teacher jump in and start reading famous literacy or literature authors without knowing the foundations of how words and how to read and write. So when you were going into the space of artificial intelligence, we need to understand how our data is being collected, who is using our data, how that data enters into AI models or mathematical models, and how it's making decisions. So machines learn in the new AI, in generative AI, the machines are learning on our data. So teachers need to understand how that works. If I can understand how it works at a high level, anybody can understand how it works. You don't need to be a computer scientist or an AI researcher to understand this. There are many, many free online courses that are available to get some basic foundational understanding of how an artificial and an AI model inputs data, learns, and outputs. Similar to the way that we input information when we read, we learn, or we turn that information into data and we output it. So it's similar, and it's easy, not easy to understand it. We can understand it. The second part is, as teachers, you need to make sure that you have a solid grasp of how AI is going to play in your own learning journey, but also that journey of your students, because your students are going to be using artificial intelligence. If it's available to them, they will use it. So, there's a big fear about, students cheating and, using it to cheat. Yes, they will. They've always found ways. Students have always found ways to cheat. AI now it just is so powerful, and it can replicate not just any human, but it can now customize so closely to the user. It's very, very difficult to tell whether a content has been AI generated or not. So there's a need to change the way we teach and the way we evaluate. For example, in some schools that I've been in, they no longer do take-home assignments. The students come together, they are put in groups of 3 or 4 students, they build a project together in class, and then they have to present that project. So they have to do home research, but then they come and then physically in the classroom have to do presentations. So the teachers are having to change the way that they're evaluating. Because with AI at the fingertips of children, of youth, it's just too easy for them to access. And then I think, lastly, John, on that is when we're using AI and as teachers, we're preparing the youth for the real world, right? To go in and to get a job, and with artificial intelligence coming in and causing such massive disruption in that space, so no one can really predict what jobs are going to be around, what jobs aren't going to be around. What we do know is that every job's going to be disrupted somehow. So how, we need to prepare youth for having the skills to navigate that. So critical thinking skills, strong communication skills, creativity, building their innate curiosity. These are skills that humans have that we're really, really good at. And it allows us to navigate with machines, but to also maintain a human agency. So understanding how AI works is important. Using AI is important, but also maintaining our human agency within the using of those machines is really important. And then if you are going into the teaching, I'd recommend trying it. So if you haven't tried an AI tool, is to just try it, and whether you by yourself, if you feel more comfortable doing that, or in small groups, and take I call it take careful steps with open curiosity. So be slowly careful, but be curious about it, because it's really powerful and can do some really neat stuff.
Wow, that's a huge answer to the question. So I'll go to the audience and now ask. But before, if you have a question. So while you were speaking, I had someone into Sandy Bansal. She's she's a principal at an international school in Uganda, but like you, Kate, she has actually been moving around the world too. So she had some part of her lives first in I think Uganda, one of the Eastern African countries, before moving back to the UK. She has taught in Italy and all of those things like that. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to ask if we have a question from the audience. I'll come up with a question, then we would bring in Sandy, so that we want to kind of like generate an interaction here. She's a teacher, so she's actually gone through certifications on AI and all that. So, like part of the question, she's into it, so she's going to be able to like tell the teacher. So now, who has a question in the audience that you want kids to attend to right now? Is there a question? Okay. Well, so Kate, what's going to happen is this: we are trying to make you to have a long morning. We would appreciate if it's still possible for you to still hold a bit while Sandy just gave a brief of a summary of what. Then we will kind of like now generate a conversation. I really want us to have a conversation around it, because now the like you mentioned something that's very, very important. Now, when they finish training as teachers and they get into the world, and it's the world of AI and a whole lot of things that actually change. So what do they do? How do they navigate through it? So it's an important question that they need to answer. So I'll bring Sandy on. Sandy, can you? Okay, sorry, let me unmute your mic. Okay, you're unmuted.
No, can you hear me?
Yes, of course, clearly.
Okay, that's good. So, hello everyone. Wow, I can see the enthusiasm as teachers. You guys are ready. Yeah, thank you, John.
All right. Yeah, they can all hear you. No problem. So you
Perfect.
can. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, John. Yes, so I'm a computer science teacher. That's my background. And one of the things I am very passionate about is bringing more girls, more women into ICT because it is very highly dominated by men. And I, I've worked a lot with coding, etc. But the new topic is AI. And I think that's one thing that, which is also fairly new in Africa. But the more globally everyone's talking about it, the more you are more open to what's happening to the rest of the world. So I have worked with, I've met John. I'm a Google innovator, a Google coach. And one of the things that we've done recently is look at Gemini. As an educator, how does AI help? Now, Kate has been talking about AI in literacy. AI is the future. We can't hide it. So how are we now working with AI? And as teachers, I think it's going to be a little bit harder for you to do. We used to get exams, we mark it. Now you have another platform to think about. And Kate, as she said, you will have to think of other ways of assessing students. Things I do, for example, a lot of platforms out there are also there to help you as a teacher. I use one of the platforms I use is called Class in the Box. Now, what that means is I find a video or a transcript, I put it into that platform, the platform analyzes it and takes out questions for the students to answer. And now, because as teachers, we've got a lot to do. What that platform does is helps the teachers to see the student how many times they watch the video, how many times did they get the question wrong, and how many skipped the video or the transcript. It sort of like gives the AI analyzes all that work for you so the teacher can then plan other things. And the thing I found with AI is it helps to unload a lot of assessments or planning for the lessons, which then makes the teacher to engage with the student a lot more, because we need to give more time to the students. We need to understand their well-being. So I think using AI tools in the classroom helps the teacher to engage with the student. And I think that is what's missing in your, I think in that generation now that's coming up in the digital world. So that's one way I use AI. Another way I use AI is I actually tell the students to go away and use the AI and do their homework. I encourage it. But then what I do is once they've done that, I say, okay, now personalize it. Because once they personalize it, they can then pick out the things they understand. AI is not correct. Now, it's not just ChatGPT. I think there's over 40, 50 AI tools out there. And everyone, the more information you're feeding it, the more better it's going to become. So I encourage the kids to use it in their education. We can't stop it. This is our future. The two examples I can think of. Has anyone got any questions?
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, good. Now, okay, I'm going to ask the audience. Now, you've actually, every one of you have heard of AI before now. Am I right? Yes. Okay, so now, from what our speakers have actually talked about, what it's intriguing about it is you need to understand how it has to be implemented as a teacher, as a professional. So now, some of the things that Sandy has actually mentioned, he says that you need to know what you want to do, then look at the resources that actually help you to actually accomplish it. So now, if you have a question, if you have tried out AI, any AI tool before, or maybe a subject or something, then you can actually tell us, and then if you have a question around it, we want to what's that? So who has a question? Just okay, yeah. Mention your name.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah. Hope you can hear signing. Hope you can hear him speaking. Good. Go ahead.
I am Oluwatomiwa. So I think I have a question for kids, and I also have a question for Sandy.
Right.
For Sandy first, then. So my question is that you mentioned about an AI tool that
Yep.
you mentioned an AI tool that help you to test how long a student can understand a particular video. So, but you didn't mention.
Sorry, but I didn't mention.
Okay, you said that there is an AI tool that can help that can tell how many times a student can understand a particular topic. But you did not mention AI tool to us. You only give us what the AI tool can do. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
What is the name of AI tool?
So he's asking, what's the AI tool that you gave an example about the description? Now, what is that AI tool called? That's what he's asking.
Okay, so it's called Class in the Box.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
But there is another one called Canva.
Canva.
Canva is a very good tool as well.
Yeah, so they were not getting clearly what the first one, the name of the first one.
Class in the Box.
Crossing the box. Okay, crossing the box.
Class.
Okay, class is the box. Class is the box. Okay, picked up. So, what's your question? Right. Class
I have a question for kids. So you said something about understanding AI, and you said something, and you said something that how to use an AI and how to use the AI tool. You said about understanding the AI tool and how to use it. Understanding the AI tool and how to use it. So, but can you give us a kind of implication to it? Is there any implication on that, or what to avoid when using it?
Can you? I didn't catch the question. I can only hear parts. John, do you mind?
Now, you said about understanding an AI tool.
Yeah.
You talked about understanding an AI tool. So, I'm asking a question that, are there implications on how to use it? Or what are those things to observe when using it as a teacher?
So are you asking why you should know how to use it as a teacher?
So the first question is, you said as an educator, you need to know how to use AI and how it works, how to use them, and how you can help your students or the learners to use.
Sandy, are you having better luck? It's cutting for me.
It's cutting.
Sorry.
I think it's, from what I understand, they're saying, or they're asking why they need to understand how to use AI.
Yeah.
Okay, can I ask a question again?
Actually, my question is directed to Ms. Gates.
Okay, go ahead.
You said as an educator, you need to know how to use AI and how they work, and how you can help your students to understand it and the role it plays in your running journey as a student.
So what's the question?
The question is, how do you use AI and how does it work? Because say as an educator, you need to know how it works, like the implication.
Oh,
Application.
okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
she's actually asking an application question that, okay, as an educator now, she wants to start to use AI. So what
Yeah.
does she do? Now, what are the things that she needs to put together in order for her to be able to deploy it in the classroom?
Yeah. So Sandy, thank you for that. Sorry, and it's breaking up a little bit and there's background noises, so it's hard to pick hear clearly. So as Sandy mentioned, there are lots and lots of different tools. When I say it's important to understand how AI works, is not so that you all become computer science teachers, but there are really important ethical implications related to the use of artificial intelligence and how these machines work. So understanding data, for instance, and I hope I'm answering your question, and correct me if I'm going off course a little bit, but there are a lot of ethical implications when you're using our AI systems. I'll break it into two main areas. One is people and one is planet. The impact on people with AI can be quite large when you're looking at how the data has been trained, where the data comes from, who's using that data, and who built the model to train that data. There are principles that are being built around the ethics of artificial intelligence. So there are biases in the data. There's lack of transparency and privacy and accountability issues. I don't want to go into too much detail. I'm happy to give a course on that. I don't want to go into too much detail of it. But what's important to know is when you're using an AI system, you're clear that it's a system that has looked after the ethical issues. You can do that by checking to see. Most systems now will have a summary of how they have collected their data and how they use their data and their accountability. So it's important that you know that, because if the data on your systems hasn't been trained. For example, you choose a system for your students in Lagos, Nigeria, and it was only trained on students in Montreal, Canada, who speak French. The data in that system is not going to be culturally relevant or connected to your students. So it might start hallucinating, which means it might start making things up. So AI models make a lot of mistakes. They're machines, and they're not magic. So these are things that are really important to kind of get a base on. And then the planet. So AI models and AI systems take up a huge amount of energy. They are use our planet's resources. I know many African countries, there are big technology companies coming to
I might have to pack it up.
resources.
You guys
And
eating?
they are here in Canada as well. So
Oh
it's
no, I'd be.
you need to be mindful of when you're using AI and if you're using it, if you need to use AI. So there's a saying in the tech world where they say, define the problem and then decide the tool. AI is not always the solution to the problem that you have. So to think about, when you're using it and how you're using it. I hope that helps. But that's why I mean, when you need to understand how AI machines work, is important for mainly for the ethical reasons to understand.
Okay, so our next creator wants to ask a question there.
Yeah, President Sandy and it's for your presentation. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My question.
Hello, Sandy, can you hear?
I can hear you, but I think I've lost the image.
Okay, there's no problem. Yeah.
Maybe I should stand up. Can you see me now? Yeah.
No, let me come. Ask Kate the question. I'm coming back.
Okay. Okay, so you can proceed the question. She said she's coming.
Okay, my name is Solomon Olubero. Yeah, I'm an educator. Now, I think the basic question one of the students, I will ask my own, paraphrase what they're asking is, as a young teacher, and you have little knowledge or shallow knowledge of AI, where do you start to be able to incorporate into teaching? I think that was the question of the other student. Now, my own question is this. We talk about AI. How do we juxtapose the position of practical knowledge? For example, somebody that is in finance, that is practical based, and you have to use your hand, your skill of drawing. How will AI be incorporated in such a scenario? That's my question. Because knowledge and practical knowledge cannot be the same.
No, and that's
I'm concerned with that.
But these models, thanks for the question. These models are getting very, very strong. So the more information we're giving them, the more that they're able to customize and learn. So with generative AI, which is the most advanced AI and common AI, it generates new content and it's able to learn from us humans. So if you are a specialist in a field of finance, for example, these models are learning. They're not perfect, but they are continuing to learn, just like a 2-year-old continues to learn, and they're getting better and better and better. So the concern around the job industries and the future is these AI models, if they're able to do everything that we all do as jobs, then what does that mean for our jobs? But I think I mean, these aren't questions that I have the answers to. I think as educators, and Sandy had mentioned that is the role of educators is changing. The AI it has all of the knowledge. Well, you know, I think with ChatGPT, the OpenAI's model scraped the internet of 500 billion words. It has scraped the internet of all of the books, all of the Reddit, all of the Wikipedia. It has so much knowledge, more knowledge than one person could ever have. So the role of an educator, I believe, with the AI is less of being the holder of all of the knowledge and more the facilitator and the guide in the learning process, and making sure that our kids have these skills that I mentioned earlier, like the creativity and the critical thinking, the ability to, you know, strengthen those skills. So to answer to wrap up, that these models are so fast and they're learning so quickly that they will be able to do any job that a specialist can do in finance, law, that requires just data.
Okay, did she answer?
I have part of the question. Yeah, part of the question.
Okay, good. I think now the understanding of what AI is, how it's actually been built over the years, and the transformation is actually getting, or the disruption that is getting into every sphere of our lives is what some of us will find it difficult to really cope with. You know, like for instance, like, when the students were asking that, okay, how do I start to use AI as an educator? Now, what I take from that question is that, okay, fine, I'm already getting trained to be a teacher, and mostly I'm supposed to be in front of the class, take the class, teach teachers, teach the students, and take assessments and all that. But now AI is coming with something totally different from what we traditionally know for what teachers are supposed to be. Now, for them, learning to make use of AI has not really gelled until they start to see that some of their students, they come to class, pick up the phones, and they ask any question, and they're able to like use maybe ChatGPT or get onto Copilot or something, get the results out very well. But in the real sense, when it comes to applying some of the details of the learning, then the students are really not very, very vast in the knowledge, because they've actually used a tool in the place of using their brains, working out their brains to actually bring out the answer. So where I'm going to raise a question for both of you is this, that now they are getting trained to become teachers. How do they manage the fact that their learners are using the tools, but they are, you can already talk a bit about that, but the humanity aspect of it, developing the creativity of the student, in order not for them to actually be dependent on the tool, but have the capacity within themselves to be able to reason, solve problems without AI, which is one of the essence of learning, that you have to learn, your ability to be able to like build learning, expand your capacity, and not just make use of tools to solve problems, because there's the human side of everything that you do. You can't use tools like empathy and all that. You can't use tools in that. So how do they manage that with their oncoming learners that they're going to be having in their classroom? I don't know if you get the question that I raised.
Sandy, do you want to go?
No, yeah, I understand. Yeah. So the rubric. Every teacher will have a rubric. Now, this is the creativity of
Hold
the
on, Sandy.
teacher.
Hold on, Sandy. Hold on,
How do you
Sandy.
want to assess the student?
Can you hear me? Sandy, can you hear me? Just hold on. You mentioned something right now. Do we all know what a rubric is? Rubric. RUBRIC. Do we all know? No. So those are the things, because now she mentioned that word because it's a key to how a teacher assesses learning. So I think I won't assist you on that. Let me just tell you, can you explain what in a simple term what a rubric is, so that they can now understand what you're saying with the rubric?
Okay.
Sandy,
So a rubric is a guideline that is given by the exam board of what the student should know by the time they finish the unit or the course or the module, something like those.
Good. So we can go with the response that you wanted to make about the rubric. You can go ahead,
Okay.
Sandy.
My thoughts. Okay, I'm listening. I'm thinking about what I was trying to say. Yes. So you have a rubric. So you're going to mark a student. So say, let's do English, and you want to assess the students if they understand. I have not studied English, so I'm going to be bad at this. Okay, you can help me. On teacher, they're going to read a book. Okay, so maybe one of the questions will be, what is the aim of the book? The student can easily put it into ChatGPT and say, what is the aim of the book? Let's say Frankenstein, and it'll give you the aim. But as Kate mentioned earlier, why don't you twist it? Instead of asking them the aim of that, ask them to present in front of the class what are the aims of the book, and everyone has to give a different aim. So now they get thinking, now, what do we want to focus on? Do we want to focus on the author or the doctor or the monster or the family? Different ways of talking about the book. But this is you now understanding them without using AI. That's my perception of how I would not use AI. But it all varies on different topics. I, for example, was teaching networks. Now, I can ask the students to do the networks and give me some kind of brief description how networks work. But what was easier was me to say to them, draw me a model of the network system. What's local area network? What's wide area network? I want you to draw that and I want you to present it. So it's using a different way of assessing students. That's how I would do it.
Okay, that's very, very important. So now, from what you said right now, you have to start to invent new ways, new methods to actually assess students of what they are learning, and not just a direct question that they will pick up from a ChatGPT or a Gemini and then give it back to you and say, "Oh, yeah, I answered your question." Whereas they didn't actually get the question, they only relied on the tool for them to be able to respond to your question. So I think that's what you mentioned right now. And Kate, let me quickly come back to you. In that light, can you talk more about maybe attributes like empathy, even the creativity of the students, and how that can actually, how we could, as teachers, deal with that in the process of learning. Now that they will face the students, because these sets are going to be facing students that are going to be much more in tune with AI and AI tools than they had an opportunity of. So how do we get ready for that? That's the question.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it builds on what Sandy was saying in the way that, needing to change the way you're assessing. So John, what you said about the ability for information to download deep so that it anchors into understanding and learning is a real concern. And globally, this isn't just for a few teachers, or schools or educators. It's globally. People are worried about our dependency on these machines and the human agency we are giving to these machines. To the point where they're now trying to study the brain to see how it's changing, and in youth and children, how their brains are changing with this consumption of AI. So they're what they call 4 Cs, which is used in like the World Economic Forum, and where the different forms of thinking about this stuff. And the 4 Cs are critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication. So to what Sandy was saying about, changing the classroom, anchoring it to those 4 Cs, or the learning to those 4 Cs. So what has the critical thinking learning being done without AI? What has the communication skills, the learning and discussing with each other, how has that been done without AI? Build those 4 Cs in an environment where the youth don't have access to the AI. And then I wanted to build on the tools themselves, because they're not just used for responding. So what AI models do is they have access to all of this data, and then they find patterns in the data and they make a prediction. So it's not like it has a brain and it's like, oh yes, I know the answer. It's just predicting based on all of the data and the training that it's had. It's saying, okay, I predict that this is going to be the next answer. There are some tools that are really, really good for students who may struggle with traditional ways of learning. So for instance, now AI models, when ChatGPT first came out in 2022, it was only able to input text, or take input text and output text. Now AI models are what we would call multimodal. So they're now able to take in data in one format and output it in another format. So you might see different AI models that you put in text, or you put in an image and it writes something for you. So that's called multimodal data. Machines are now able to translate and transfer data from one format into another format, which is great for kids who struggle with dyslexia, who have other learning difficulties, who might learn better by visually seeing the information. And coming to John's question about the learning, seeing data in different formats can also anchor and enrich your learning. So it can help build critical thinking. So if students have used ChatGPT, they can then go to another model and have it prompt it to try and translate it into another format. So NotebookLM, for example, is a Google product, and it makes podcasts from information. So you can input, I don't know, a 5-page essay that one of your students has written, input it into NotebookLM, and the AI model will create a podcast that a student can listen to, and then they can have a debate and a discussion. So that's sort of my download to you today on the 4 Cs and the critical thinking being probably the most important.
Well, that's a good one. That's a very good answer. Thank you so much, Sandy. Okay, so while we go on the home run, I've actually kept you all for like more than 2 hours. So, do we have any other question from any of us? Okay, yeah. Please, can you come forward to that? Zoom, you have the questions. Okay, who else has a question? Please. Okay.
Good day, Mrs. Kate. So my question is, you talked about ChatGPT. You said it was 2022. It was just taking in text, and the output is also text. So, and you made mention that students are creative now that it has advanced, so it can take in large informations and display large information also. So I want to use myself as an example. There was a time during my practical, so I asked a question, okay, a practical question. So the diagram of a particular plant and the demonstration of a particular practical. So I asked for the diagram, but the explanation of the ChatGPT is contradicting the picture, the diagram I got from it. So I would like to ask if there is a way to work, or if something will be done about that, if there will be an advancement in which the text information you have gotten from the ChatGPT will be translated, will be represented diagrammatically correctly. So that's my question.
So when you use ChatGPT, you got that error,
Yeah.
and you're wondering how can that be corrected?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I don't answer your question fully, let me know. So what happens in AI models is they confabulate, or they hallucinate. So AI models, again, they don't have brains. They are mathematical models that use data, and they, depending on the type of learning. So let's say it's a neural network. The data goes into these machines, and the math is trying to find predictions. So it's looking for a pattern, and outputs that pattern. It has no idea. It doesn't have critical thinking skills like we do as humans. It's not able to assess and step back and go, does that make sense? I'm not quite sure that's the right answer, because all it has done is looked for predictions and patterns in data. So to avoid it making mistakes is, the model needs to be trained on more and more and more data for it to get stronger and better and improve. But it's also really important for you as educators to know that these models are not always right. Their confidence level in the answers that come, and for your students to know, are quite often wrong, depending on the area of, they're very strong in some areas now, but in some areas, and some of these new models are terrible. I was using Figma a couple of days ago, and I'd put in a list of all these animals, and I asked it to I'm making these cards, and I asked it to design the cards with this list of these animals, list of animals I hadn't even asked it for. So you have to be really careful to make sure that you are the final check on the answer, because it doesn't know if it's right or wrong. Sandy, you might have something to add to that.
Yeah, no, I agree. When you ask AI a question, always look back. You always have to. Other thing is, you are making a machine much better than a human, and that's what we don't want to do. So we still have to try and preserve that information for ourselves.
Okay.
All right, thanks so much. My question is answered.
All right. Thank you so much for the response. Yeah. one final slot for a question. So it's going. Okay, so I'm going to give it to one of my biggest friends here. So Kate, meet Dr. Adebago.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, by then. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for being on board to add color to this workshop. And I also take the opportunity to thank you for the other audience you gave to me while I was on your other side and I come around. I really appreciate that. So we continue to navigate your way and come across to you so that we can continue to help our students to grow and to be at par with the best practices globally.
Thank
And we also
you.
appreciate attitude for coming on board. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So I've kept you people for long, and I. So everybody, can you give Sally and Kate a round of applause? All right. So we didn't have an opportunity to introduce them fully. So these are undergraduate students from like 4 institutions in Lagos. There are ones that come from Yaba College of Technology where I work and Dr. Adibok work. Then we are in another institution called Federal College of Education, it's in Akoka Tech. Then we have some from St. Augustine, it's affiliated to the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. And we have people from the great University of Lagos too that they've joined us. So we actually pick them up for. So they're part of the research and we are continuing with this research. So later, maybe next year, they are going to go to the field and they're going to meet some assessment with what they are learning through the research. They're doing things in open education. They're learning about open licenses and all that, and how to effectively use OERs. I know you know about. You worked on so much on that OERs with their students, and then how to effectively like what we know what OERs can actually do. It's also a way to actually make people to bypass the total reliance on AI. With OER, everybody is a contributor, everybody is a creator. You can always get your learners to always put things together. And then when we're able to kind of like work with open education resources, open licenses, it helps us to be able to think of not what we will get in every situation in other places, but what the little that we can actually offer, how far it can actually go, because that's what the open education system preaches and brings out. So that's what they're working on. So we really appreciate your time, what you've actually been able to let the students know. A lot of them will go back to their learnings and look at some of the things that we've had from this session. And then we hope that in the future we'll definitely call on you and you would answer us. Never mind. Sandy will say African time. So, but we couldn't help it today. We had a heavy downpour that really messed up. So that was why we started late. So thank you very much, and we hope you're going to have an exciting time for the rest of your day. So everybody, applause to you. Okay, so quickly, Dr. Adibako said that, Kate, that your problem is that don't make sure that you fulfill it, that you say you'll be in Nigeria sometime soon. And so we'll look out for that. And maybe these students, they're going to be part of those people that are going to be your audience soon, whenever you're going to come around.
Wonderful.
Okay,
John, also, if anyone wants to reconnect with me, understanding more educational tools, likewise if with Kate on the other side, the practical side, we're probably very open for you guys to connect with us.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, okay. So that's a little check to everybody that you can connect to both Sandy and Kate. Just get on LinkedIn. I'll give you their information and you can actually. So the conversation doesn't have to stop here. So you have that's the beauty that you have when we brought people like this into the system for you. You don't stop in learning, and when you have access to people that can actually offer you some additional knowledge, it's an opportunity for you to continue to grow yourself. So Sandy has said it, so please avail yourself the opportunity. Sandy, bounce out. You see her on LinkedIn, just tell her that you attended this workshop and you can continue the conversation. And also, Kate also, Kate has a Nigerian blood in her, so she will, so she will definitely go and say, come on, and she, nobody, she will not surprised that she will say, tell you something you will not have it, and you kind of like, so do you mean Kate, you know how to speak to university? Yeah, so thank you very much one more time, and do have a pleasant
Good luck,
day.
everyone.
Bye.